I really just need a break this time, man. I'm serious. Like, I know that I'm doing...
What do I need to give you a break on?
What is wrong with you?
When a state trooper gives you a lawful order, you do it.
This is wrong. You're going to get fired.
On March 4th, 2025, a federal grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky, returned a federal criminal indictment. This is the story of Kentucky State Police Trooper James Cameron Wright. He was charged with 3 counts. 2 counts of using excessive force, and 1 count of perjury, lying under oath.
Once you had him on the ground, did you strike or hit him with a closed fist at all?
No, sir. He did not need to be struck with my hands or any impact weapon.
But the story of this guy should send a shiver down your spine. Everybody, all the way to the very top of the Kentucky State Police leadership, knew that this guy was a bad cop.
So the cover-up goes all the way up to the current KSP commissioner.
Even with full knowledge of Wright's propensity to commit unlawful violence, and that he had lied about it under oath, instead of firing him, they gave him an award, Trooper of the Year. And as a result, he kept doing it over and over again, including to this guy, John Millett. And I'm going to show you the exclusive body cam footage of what he did to that guy that finally got him in real trouble. And only through the tenacity of a brilliant Kentucky civil rights lawyer, Chris Wiest, did the feds finally step in. I talked to Chris and he revealed massive systemic problems within the Kentucky State Police. You need to hear it for yourself and share it with your friends, your family, because this is unbelievable. It was March 12th of 2024, near the city limits of the town of West Point, Kentucky. Kentucky State Police Trooper James Cameron Wright was on duty in uniform in his marked patrol vehicle. Wright initiates a traffic stop for failure to signal. His dash cam is operating and it shows him stopping the vehicle and then getting out and approaching the driver. Upon contact, he begins to suspect that the driver, John Millett, may be intoxicated.
Lost, bub?
I believe so. I was looking for...
You seem like you're pretty lost.
Yeah, I was looking for somebody who was selling something on Facebook, and...
Oh, where are you trying to get to?
It's...
You don't know where you're going without looking at your phone?
No, I was getting the address.
Oh, well, where are you trying to get to, like, in general? Like Muldrow, trying to get to...
It was supposed to be Muldrow, I think.
Oh, you're going the wrong way then, bub.
Oh, okay.
You care to put the cigarette out while we're talking? Because it gets sucked out the window at me. And I don't want to sit here and deal with the smoke while Appreciate it.
No problem.
Wright then asks Mr. Millett for his driver's license and insurance.
You got your driver's license insurance card on you?
I don't have insurance at the time. I just got my taxes, and I'm looking for car insurance rates.
Sure. Okay.
I'm serious. I really...
No, I believe you.
And
And Millett responds that he does not have insurance. And then he basically begs Trooper Wright, saying that he needs a break.
I really just need a break this time, man. I'm serious. Like, I know that I'm doing...
What do I need to give you a break on?
I'm doing everything wrong. I don't have tags. I don't have insurance.
Okay. I mean, I can deal with that. I'll be honest, I care about that stuff, but I couldn't care less about that compared to other things. See what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Nothing illegal inside the vehicle?
No.
Okay. So where are you trying to get to?
Muldrow.
Okay, I got you. Then Wright asks Mr. Millett to turn his car off, to which he complies.
You don't care to turn the car off for a second, okay?
Wright asked Mr. Millett to step out of the vehicle so that he could talk to him. Wright then himself opens Millett's door as Mr. Millett begins to step out.
All right, here, step out and talk to me real quick, okay? No guns, no weapons on your person?
No.
Trooper Wright yells at Mr. Millett not to reach for anything as Mr. Millett gently tosses an object that he had in his hands onto the passenger seat.
Don't reach for anything, you understand me?
Yeah.
Hey, you reach for anything.
Mr. Millett is seen on the body cam raising his hands and that he had a phone in his left arm. Wright grabs Mr. Millett's right arm. Wright again tells Mr. Millett to step out, even though Mr. Millett had already been doing so.
Step out.
With Trooper Wright having grabbed Mr. Millett to control him, and with Mr. Millett having his cell phone in his left hand, Mr. Millett's hands are still raised, demonstrating compliance.
Look, I was just grabbing my lighter.
Even though Mr. Millett did not resist Wright in any way, Wright bear hugs Mr. Millett and violently throws him to the ground.
I'm not even doing nothing wrong.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
I'm not even doing nothing wrong.
Get on your belly.
And it was only going to get worse from there.
What is wrong with you?
When a state trooper gives you a lawful order, you do it.
But to understand how we got to this point and how this very footage resulted in finally getting accountability against this trooper, we have to go back like 5 years on the timeline, because this moment would not have happened but for all of the crazy things that happened before. Mr. Millett's lawyer, who filed a federal civil rights lawsuit just a few weeks ago, is going to walk us through that timeline because he himself was the lawyer who was involved 5 years earlier in trying to hold that trooper accountable back then.
March 6, 2020, there is a chase of a gentleman by the name of Justin Halcomb. Stops his video, steps out, puts his hands on his truck, and he gets piled on by KSP troopers, including Wright. Shoves his head to the ground, repeatedly and gratuitously strikes him as he's piled on by multiple officers. You've got hospital photos afterwards where Halcomb is jacked up and bloody as a consequence of this. So that's March 6, 2020. April 2, 2020. Wright is involved in the apprehension of a guy by the name of Thomas Davis. Davis is stopped. Wright opens the driver's door, throws him to the ground, even though he wasn't actively resisting, and then he is repeatedly and gratuitously struck. What is interesting about both the Halcomb and Thomas Davis incidents is they generate what is known as an RR report in KSP parlance, which is a response to resistance report. KSP policy is basically to criminally charge every single person that they beat or abuse with obstruction of justice or resisting arrest, specifically resisting arrest, regardless of whether or not, this is in their policy, regardless of whether or not they in fact resisted. If you use force on somebody, you're going to charge them. It's a cover. The policy, the cover-up is embedded in KSP policy. It's insane. The lieutenant colonel that's in charge of operations is now the KSP commissioner. And in that capacity, he is reviewing the internal affairs recommendations on these response to resistance reports. And he signs off on and approves that there was no unlawful use of force on both Davis and Halcomb, both of which a federal grand jury has found probable cause to arrest and charge these troopers with criminal use of force. So the cover-up goes all the way up to the current KSP commissioner,
Philip Burnett.
Philip Burnett. His signature is on these response to resistance reports.
The guy who is now the head of the Kentucky State Police signed off on those uses of force as being justified or being lawful. And now, 5 years later, a federal grand jury has indicted Wright for both of those uses of force.
Correct.
Got it.
All right. Timeline. April 9th, 7 days after the Davis incident, we've got the Alex Hornback incident, which you've reported on, I've reported on, we've got the video. They didn't know we had basement camera. They threatened mom and dad with arrest over the dad's cell phone video because they didn't want any of it captured. They both say they used no force, even though we've got video of it, both Czartoryski and Wright under oath.
The Hornback arrest resulted in a civil rights lawsuit alleging excessive force. That was filed by Chris Wiest. When Chris took these officers' depositions, both Trooper Wright and also Trooper Czartoryski, neither one of them knew that Chris had this video from inside the home that showed them striking Mr. Hornback. Since they did not know that proof existed that they did that, even though they were under oath at the deposition, they lied and said they did not strike him at all. Chris caught them red-handed committing perjury. Here you can see for yourself Trooper Wright lying under oath.
Once you had him on the ground, did you strike or hit him with a closed fist at all?
No, sir.
Okay. Or any part of your body?
No, sir.
Okay. And the reason that you didn't do that is that there was no more force that was required at that point in time to have effected the arrest, right?
He did not need to be struck with my hands or any impact weapon.
Maybe the craziest part of the story is what happened afterwards. In that lawsuit, the federal judge calls out these two cops for lying. So what do Kentucky prosecutors and the Kentucky State Police do as a result? Both cops, Wright and Czartoryski, lied about unnecessarily beating and striking Mr. Hornback. But only Czartoryski was forced to resign and indicted on state perjury charges, and ultimately convicted never to work as a police officer again. Given the fact that Wright did the exact same thing as Zartorsky, why didn't any of that happen to him? He was not fired. He was not forced to resign. He was not charged. In fact, he was given an award for Trooper of the Year. You could not make this up if you wanted to.
Zartorsky ends up being, ending his career with the KSP. He's put on probation for state perjury charge. He's never allowed to hold a law enforcement career. He was in the military as an officer at the time, and the National Guard, I believe, part of his probation term is that had to end. So he's taken out of positions of trust and confidence as a consequence of the perjury conviction. Wright, meanwhile, is allowed to continue, and in fact, is nominated by Burnett and others as Trooper of the Year, with knowledge of all of this going on. Okay, so he's the pedestal guy that they're holding up. The perjurer. By the way, Wright was indicted for perjury by the feds recently for his same testimony in the Hornback case. So we've got all this going on, and it's being covered up. And in fact, they're holding Wright up as the Trooper of the Year in or around that time, with knowledge of all of this. By the way, one of the things that we've also come to learn, and this is in the Millett lawsuit, is the person that was investigating these post-4 use of forces. There's a sergeant. The sergeant, by the way, was himself the subject of multiple lawsuits.
What is his name?
Yeah, let me find it. Jeremy Mabe.
M-A-B-E?
M-A-B-E. Yeah, so Mabe's the immediate supervisor who is assigned to investigate most of these uses of force. And generally, he is writing in repeated use of force investigations. The subject took a belated, aggressive stance, and that justifies all these people getting jacked up. And Mabe is involved in the whitewash. So that's also going on. And there's a pattern of it, including the investigation of Halcomb and Davis, both of which are the subject of federal indictments at this point. Halcomb had whitewashed, bladed aggressive stance. So that's also going on. March 12, 2024, we've got the incident with my client, Mr. Millett. There is the traffic stop. I don't think there's any argument by us about the legality of the stop, nor is there argument by us about the legality of the arrest. It's somewhat apparent that, he had been drinking a little. And I don't think we take issue with that aspect of it, but we do take issue with the use of force. And so Wright's got body-worn camera. There's also some dash camera footage. My whistleblower, by the way, is prepared to testify that when KSP first got body cameras, one of the first people it was issued to was Cameron Wright, because they knew he was out there tuning up citizens, illegally, and they wanted, to kind of tone him down a little bit by getting him a body camera. It didn't stop him, obviously.
So turning back to the body cam footage showing what happened to Mr. Millett at the hands of James Cameron Wright, Wright had thrown Mr. Millett to the ground. Once on the ground, Wright demanded that Mr. Millett place his hands behind his back. So Mr. Millett did that. He immediately placed his hands behind his back.
I'm not even doing nothing wrong.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
But then Wright yells for Mr. Millett to get on his belly. Mr. Millett's hands are still behind his back at that point.
I'm not even doing nothing wrong.
Get on your belly.
Wright then yells again for Mr. Millett to get on his belly, and less than a second later,
get on your belly.
Wright then deploys his taser. Wright's dashcam footage reveals not just one, but two separate deployments of his taser, where you hear popping noise for extended periods of time. Wright continues his taser deployment for approximately 10 seconds.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back.
I'm good.
Do not move. Do you understand me?
After Wright ceases taser deployment, Mr. Millett flips to his stomach with his hands behind his back.
What is wrong with you?
When a state trooper gives you a lawful order, you do it. Do not move. You understand? You are under arrest.
For what?
For obstructing and now resisting arrest.
No, I didn't. Your camera will show.
Yeah, do not move.
I swear to God, it'll show.
I can smell weed and I can smell alcohol.
There ain't no fucking weed in the car.
Yeah, I can smell alcohol on you.
No, you ain't got no right to search my vehicle. I didn't do nothing wrong. I ain't do nothing wrong.
Mr. Millett is then handcuffed and pulled to his feet. Immediately after that, Trooper Wright again gratuitously throws Mr. Millett back to the ground, injuring him. Mr. Millett complains and screams out due to severe shoulder pain.
Do not dare try to go back towards that car.
Why did you do this to me? My fucking shoulder's broke, dude.
It ain't broke.
You just fucking slammed me.
Stand up.
You just slammed me and I didn't even touch you.
You tried to pull me back towards your car.
No, I didn't.
Quit pulling against me or you're going back down.
I have rights. This is wrong. You're going to get fired.
No, you're drunk. I can smell weed. And I'm about to search that car, so you better tell me what's in the car right now.
Basically, he just escalates a routine traffic stop into violence, just like he's done in all these other incidents.
Oh yeah, I think we're now like case 6 or 7 of this, that we know of, and frankly, there's a lot more to it. My understanding is he has generated over 100 use of force incidents, but we're still investigating that.
What happened with the criminal prosecution of Millett?
So he was charged with resisting and everything else. That gets knocked down. I think he pled to an open container charge and a reduced charge on the driving of influence charge.
At what point was the use of force questioned in the Millett incident?
Well, by KSP, because Millett goes to the hospital, right? Millett wasn't just tased. I think he was thrown twice. And as a consequence of all of this, he's taken to Baptist Health for treatment. Ultimately, he goes to the hospital. He's got a fracture of 7 of his ribs, a dislocation of his left shoulder. Obviously, when the taser strikes you twice, when he was tased twice, those probes go into your skin. It's like a barb that goes into your skin. So all that occurs. That's his physical injuries. Because he is taken to the hospital, they have to do an RR report. And there's a discussion between him and the lieutenant at the scene. We think it's Lieutenant McKee, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So I've sued all the lieutenants. And they're talking about how Wright needs to respond to this to not, to not violate policy. Basically, they're talking about how it's on the camera at the hospital. There's this discussion with the lieutenant of like how to cover it up. That's pretty problematic. Although that's part and parcel with what's going on at post 4 KSP. So, like I said, there's a pattern of practice issue here. Millett's admitted to St. Mary's Hospital. We've got 7 days of hospital admission records with all this treatment. And so, all that's going on as well.
He was hospitalized for 7 days as a result of this?
Yes.
Damn.
He's got broken ribs. Like, he's significantly jacked up as a consequence of this. We're getting ready to sue. And I was aware for a while that the FBI was looking into Cameron Wright as early in Zortorsky as early as 2021. I might want to mention Sergeant Mabe. We talked about him. He was sued in 2017 for a use of force incident and threatening to illegally arrest road workers. He was sued again. This is the investigator, right? This is the guy that's holding people accountable. Sued again for excessive force and false arrest and Turner v. Mabe in 2020 in federal court. So, who's policing the people that are supposed to police the police? Like when they're getting sued themselves. So, there's a problem here.
And then he did it again a few months after Millett.
Yep.
To this Blevins guy.
Yep, the Blevins.
All right, Mr. Blevins, stay that for me real quick.
I ain't got to get out of here. A typical traffic stop last June turned tense when a Kentucky trooper turned his taser on Dawson Blevins.
I was thinking he wasn't going to stop tasing me.
A lawsuit filed Monday claims trooper James Wright became aggressive when Blevins didn't want to get out of the car. He eventually did, and that's when the situation escalated.
Oh, I'm videotaping.
In the video, Blevins is tackled and tased multiple times while expressing to Wright he can't comply with his orders.
Put your hands behind your back. Okay.
He was then maced.
Put your hands behind your back.
Yet another case of him taking just a routine traffic stop, and when somebody doesn't respond quickly enough, throwing them on the ground violently and tasing them.
Yeah. That's the pattern and MO of this guy. If you look at the Second Amendment complaint that's been tendered, a lot of that information particularly in paragraphs 77 through 98, discuss what the command staff knew of, how there was this systemic cover-up. That we're prepared to substantiate that by way of testimony. We got a KSP insider that's willing to point the finger all the way up the chain of command on this, and it's a problem. I don't know why they are undertaking cover-up as opposed to trying to clean up the organization, appropriately training troopers on active versus passive resistance. Like, I mean, the rot is all the way to the top, and it's unfortunate because, I mean, KSP for a long time always had this gold standard in Kentucky. I do think the accountability's got to run to the top, and I'd love to get some systemic changes in how they train, how they handle resistance response. They went out, I don't know if you know this, this was in the complaint, true story, substantiated by open records requests. They went out and spent money on a new tracking system in place with other organizations called IA Pro. They spent more than $100,000 for IA Pro software. And it would allow tracking of like these E42 incidents that now they're covering up. They decided not to do that because they don't want tracking within KSP of these use of force incidents to be able to demonstrate pattern and practice. Like, this is not sort of a, hey, I'm at the top, I'm busy, this didn't catch my attention. This is, I am making deliberate decision making to cover up serious misconduct all the way to the top of the organization. Cameron Wright, he gets criminally charged by the United States Department of Justice. I mean, by the way, when they came in, like, it's not just the local U.S. attorneys that are part of this. If you look at the appearance, there are attorneys from Maine Justice, the criminal division, the Civil Rights Division criminal section. I think there's 4 or 5 of them that have been assigned to this. Like this has gotten the attention of Washington, D.C. It's been that bad. They're indicting Cameron Wright. KSP leadership is signing off on the same incidents. Like, there's a disconnect.
Is Wright still employed by the Kentucky State Police?
He is employed. They put him on paid leave, is my understanding, pending the criminal outcome. So even the indictment was not sufficient to end his employment. He is being paid, that's my understanding, he's being paid by the taxpayers to sit at home right now while his criminal charges are pending. Wright was indicted, by the way, just so I can be clear, for the March 5th incident on Mr. Halcomb, use of force, excessive use of force. For the March 12th incident on my client, Mr. Millett, so that's number 2, that's the second use of force. And for the perjury incident in the Hornback case, those were the 3 charges that have been in federal charges against Cameron Wright. I think I've run, because I was curious what his sentencing guidelines would be if he's convicted on all 3, assuming he doesn't plea. I think he's looking at around 3 to 4 years in a federal penitentiary if he's convicted on all those charges.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I think that brings us up the timeline to the present.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can do another update video after he's convicted and you guys have won this lawsuit. Well, there you have it. Serious problems in Kentucky. It's so bad that the feds are having to come in and prosecute this guy for uses of force that the literal head of the Kentucky State Police personally approved of and signed off on back when they happened. It's no wonder we're seeing so many videos coming out of Kentucky. Hell, my last video was on the Kentucky State Police. So I will continue to follow this for sure. You can follow along by subscribing both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. You can help by spreading this footage, including to your politicians. Everybody in the country ought to know what is happening right now in Kentucky. This is not a political issue. This is not a partisan issue. This is an issue of police leadership in Kentucky not following the laws and rules that we already have and expect them to follow, which government employees will do if there's no accountability, if nobody is watching them. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.